Hey guys, it's Beth. Today I'll be making a pumpkin shelf sitter using mostly Dollar Tree supplies. I started by taking the wall tile and covering it entirely with sage chalk paint, and I gave that 2 coats. Next, I flipped over the wall tile after it was completely dry, took the pumpkin from Dollar Tree and traced and cut that out. I did not bother tracing out the stem. And then I took the pumpkin and removed the word from it as well as the paper. And then I took this tacky glue from Dollar Tree and put a generous amount on the pumpkin, not doing the stem, and then placed down my wall tile. And next I took some white chalk paint and just dry brushed it all over the entire front of the pumpkin, trying to get most of those raised parts so they popped a little bit. And then I took the burnt umber acrylic paint and painted the stem, and I did do 2 coats on that. Once that was done, I dry brushed with the white chalk paint 3 little lines on the stem, just kind of curved a little bit, and then took my finger to kind of blend it in. Next, I just used some hot glue to glue together the tumbling blocks. I did 2 sets of 4. I originally had 10 blocks set aside, but I didn't end up needing that many. I only ended up needing 9. So you'll have 2 sets of 4 and then 1 just left over. So what I was doing was making a stand, and it was kind of hard to measure the end pieces here. I had set the pumpkin in between the blocks and then measured out the side to see how long I needed that tumbling block to be for the sides. And it ended up being just shy of 1 inch, and it ended up being exactly half of the tumbling block that I needed for each side. So I only ended up needing that 1 extra one. And then I just used my miter shears to cut it in half. And then sanded the ends that I had cut. And then I painted all of the tumbling blocks with the white chalk paint. I covered them entirely, doing 2 coats. And next I had to make my bow. So I just gathered each piece of ribbon in the center, pinching it, and then kind of crisscrossing them in my hand and then holding them all together as I went along, using different styles and raffia throughout the whole thing until it was nice and full. And then I attached the whole thing together with a zip tie. You can use twine if you'd like. I just had the zip tie on hand, so I just used that and pulled it nice and tight, fluffed out the bow, trimmed up any pieces that were too long or too short, and then trimmed up the zip tie on the back. And then next I took this little leather hangers. I used the pumpkin one that said blessed, and I just held it up to where I wanted it to be hanging down and trimmed it and hot glued it. And then hot glued the bow right on top of that. And next I had to put my little stand together with the pumpkin on it. So I held the bottom of the pumpkin up to the wider side of the blocks, the 4 I had set together, traced out a line to make sure to put the hot glue in the right spot, placed down the bottom of the pumpkin, making sure that the bottom of the pumpkin did not go over the tumbling blocks or else it wouldn't sit right. And then I did the same thing for the front. Just hot glued in those same spots on the front and place those tumbling blocks with the wide side facing the pumpkin and facing out, and hot glued that down. And then once that was dry, I had to do my ends. So those two little half tumbling blocks, I hot glued those on either end. And then the last thing I did was took the Spanish moss and hot glued it on the very top of the stand, bottom of the pumpkin, just right in the front, and then on the ends a little bit, just so it was covering the entire top of that stand. And here it is all finished. I absolutely love this project. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.